Speaking of priceless, and speaking of the Desert Bloom Relief Center, we've got Anna Helber, and she is going to come and answer your questions and tell you all about the center. She and Ari Rubin are our last two guests today to give you some education and let you know about your local dispensary here. Thank you, Anna. Everybody give a good hand to Anna.
Good afternoon, everybody. As Kathy said, my name is Anna. And currently I work at Desert Bloom Relief Center. I've been there since December, but Oro Valley is very close to my heart. I've worked in the Oro Valley area for about 8 years total. Haven't actually lived in the area myself, but had been all over the area and worked with the community and with Mayor Higher Math and different facets, and actually opened and ran the Oro Valley dispensary called Catalina Hills Care. And I just left Catalina Hills Care in November and went over to Desert Bloom Relief Center. So I don't know if you all are aware that there is a dispensary about 5 minutes down the road in the Safeway Shopping Center that's at Rancho Vistoso Boulevard, where it turns into First and Tangerine. There's a dispensary in there. It's right next to the Cheers to Your Nutrition, and there's I forget, the Golden Dragon Chinese restaurant. So it's in a really nice, safe part of Oro Valley, really well-lit area, and it's a good team over there that I left behind, and we still work together. So that is available right up here in the area. And one of the interesting facts of Catalina Hills Care is the older demographic in terms of the patients that go in there. And about 24% of the patients were over 74 years of age that we were working with, and that they still are working with now, and that number is just growing. So I have a lot of experience with that being said, of working with older adults and having to find the right fit within cannabis. There's a little later in my discussion I'll tell you about the different ways that you can administer cannabis, and for elderly and for youth, young patients, it's kind of the same. So we'll touch on that a little bit more. So we've talked about the qualifying conditions in the state of Arizona. I'm going to run through that list one more time. Cancer, glaucoma, HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, Crohn's disease, ALS, Alzheimer's disease, and then a chronic or debilitating condition that would lead to wasting syndrome or cachexia. I don't say that word very well. Severe and chronic pain, severe nausea, seizures, or severe and persistent muscle spasms. And then just in January, we added to that list PTSD. And that's one of the things that I think Sylvester has so much passion about. And the fact that that wasn't on the original list was a real shame, because it is an excellent medication for those suffering from PTSD. And then not to mention the area of the country that we live in, we do have quite a few veterans in our state. So PTSD was a huge success, and so we're excited to see those patients start coming through the doors and helping them out. The most used condition is severe and chronic pain. So if you didn't find your ailment on that list, don't worry. Chances are what you have is possibly causing severe and chronic pain, and there still is a way that we could find a fit for getting you qualified under the medical program, the way that it's been set forth in the state. So when you want to apply for a medical marijuana card, I think we saw the sample from Dawn earlier, and it's obviously a card like your driver's license size with a photo on it. So you have to apply for that card. And the Department of Health Services with the state of Arizona, that's the department that oversees the entire program. That's the department that comes into Desert Bloom Relief Center and does our annual compliance inspection, and they oversee the entire program. Well, also all of the cardholder applications go through them, and then they ultimately mail out the cards. They don't necessarily, though, approve it or disprove it. I don't know if I explained that to people enough. It's not like you'll apply for it and then they'll get your paperwork and say, no, I don't agree with this. They're just checking their boxes and making sure that all the paperwork's done correctly and that you've basically met all the requirements. Probably the toughest thing for most people is what doctor is going to support this, and how am I going to get through that hurdle? That's probably everyone's biggest hurdle. So when you apply for the card, you do it over the internet. That's what we were talking about earlier. That's why if the site's been down for 3 weeks, that's a huge detriment to the program. That means 3 weeks of anybody who tried to go in and file an application wasn't able to do that. And it is a very dynamic internet system because you have to upload documents and it has to accept them, what have you. Some of the documents that you would have to provide them when applying is a photo, like a passport size, a patient attestation form that's signed. And that attestation form is just a document you print out from their website that says you certify that you'll be legal with the cannabis. And you also are going to upload some sort of an ID. There's different forms of ID that they accept. And then the biggie is the physician certification form. You can actually download this form from their website. They have a great website when it's working. And you can see clearly for the different areas of the program, qualified patients go here, physicians go in here. If you went into the physician section, it's like an actual box. You click in there, scroll down a little bit, you're going to find a form you can print out. Print that form out and take it into your doctor. It's something that you should talk to your doctor about anyways, or talk to the nurse for the doctor, and they may be willing to sign it. More and more doctors each day are becoming more open to the idea, and it can save a little bit of money if you can get your doctor to fill out the certification form. It's a one-page form. It's really not that daunting of a document for them. And any MD, DO, or NMD can complete the form. So they would essentially complete the form, hand it back to you, and then you would continue on with your online application process.
Is the address azdhs.gov?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's up and running.
Okay, and then see if you can get into one section further, which is the medical marijuana program. It might be that page that's struggling.
Yeah. What is it? Is it a special page?
Yeah. If you go to there's an A to Z. There's an A to Z index on there where you can click on the letter M, and then that'll...
It says medical marijuana right up top.
Right.
Okay, so maybe you're in there. Maybe they resolved the issue. They're always doing site maintenance, you know, even for the dispensary agents.
It says applications.
Okay.
Well, great. Sounds like it's working. That's wonderful.
I would just be concerned if our $9 million in excess fee payments is still there now that it's back up.
Right?
That would be my concern. Or did Doug decide it needs to go to a new ice cream shop?
It's good that you mentioned the fees, actually. The program is a lucrative program for the state. For all of us that work in a dispensary, we have to pay $500 every year to have our dispensary agent card, and we do go through, we submit fingerprints, and you know, the state does screen the folks that are working within the dispensaries, so there is a check and balance there. And each patient, when they apply for their card, also has to pay a fee. And it's only good for a year. Your card has an issue date, your card has an expiration date, you have to renew it year after year. Right now, the program costs are $150 for a qualifying patient card. You can get that discounted only through the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. You get food stamps essentially, or have a card. You can get that fee reduced down to $75. And minors, because they do approve minor patients, those being people under the age of 18, but their card is $350 a year. And if somebody is disabled or unable to get to a dispensary, they can designate a caregiver for them, who that person is assigned to that particular patient. They still would get a patient card, but they're linked together, and then the caregiver can go into the dispensaries and pick out the medications and purchase on their behalf and take them back to the patient. So there's a few options. The caregiver card is $200. So like I said, I do recommend going to your physician first, or at least checking with the office to see if they're open to it. But if they're not, there are a ton of what they call certification centers. And right after the program was approved, these places started popping up all over the place. They all have different fees, ranging from $90 up to maybe $175. Everyone's a little different. In this area, and who I used when I worked at Catalina Hills Care, is Integrative Medical Associates. It's Dr. Bruce Sadalik, and he is a naturopath doctor. He's amazing. And he's actually been able to have his naturopath, you know, practice, but he's kind of became a really well-known resource for doing certifications. And he's thorough. He does a really great job. I believe he charges $130. But that's the whole kit and caboodle. Their office is going to take your photo, they're going to print the forms for you, they're going to upload the documents and complete the application, process the payment, have you meet with Dr. Sadalik. The only catch, if you're going to use one of these certification doctors, is that you have to have a medical record that you can show them. You need to have a recent medical record. It can't be your record from 10 years ago about, you know, something going on then. It has to be something within the last 12 months that basically you've, you know, been overseen and there's been some documentation of whatever condition you're suffering from. This medical record could even come from a chiropractor. So if you have back issues, but all you've done for your back issues, let's say you haven't gone to the pain specialist, you see your chiropractor on a regular basis, that record will work. So, you know, if you know the program well enough, it is open, you know, for a lot of folks, and there's ways around it. I have cards on the table back there, so if you want to brainstorm with me or Ari at all, we're happy to do that and come up with some different ideas, or, you know, we have other doctors. There's another one in town called Tumbleweeds. They're $90 for, you know, if you're looking for something on the more of a budget, they're $90 for their program, but it's a little bit further away. So once the application is approved, they will mail the card to your home address. And usually you'll get an approval email, and then 10 to 14 business days later, it ends up in your mailbox. I believe that they have a date they mail these things out on, because at the dispensary we get floods of new patients on very specific days of the week. I mean, one after another, so it's like everybody got their card at the same time. But once you get that card, you can go to any dispensary in the state. And some other states do accept the Arizona card. But in terms of our state, there are 86 dispensaries throughout it. And the newsletter that Kathy was mentioning earlier, every month that gets mailed to your home and emailed to your email address. And at the end of it, it has a list of all the dispensaries that are currently open with a phone number and an address. So it's a nice resource too. One thing to note is for any patients that are under the age of 18, they do make it a more rigorous program, and those patients actually need to get 2 doctor recommendations instead of the one for the adult patients. So, you know, they really want to make sure that this is the best fit for that minor, which is a good thing. So let's say now your card has come into the mail, and what do you do from here? And what I dealt with more often than I ever thought I would in my life at the Oro Valley Dispensary was the person walking into my store saying, I've never touched cannabis my whole life. I've never smoked a joint. I've never had an edible. I don't know nothing. And we had to coach people sometimes on how to smoke a pipe or use a vaporizer or dose things out really specifically for people if they couldn't even smoke or didn't even want to touch that option. And there are a lot of options. The options start with the plant itself. The cannabis plant grows in 2 different types, and they're dramatically different from each other in their physical attributes and also in their effects on the body. So there's Cannabis sativa, Cannabis indica. And I'll, at the end of this, also touch on the high CBD strains. We've been hearing about CBD a lot, and I'll mention why that's so special. The Cannabis indica plants are short, have short fat leaves, and they originated in the Middle East. The effects of Cannabis indica are drowsiness. They give a couch lock feeling, which we use in the industry term, meaning you kind of will medicate, you'll sit down, you don't want to move because you're so relaxed. They'll make you tired, It reduces anxiety. It's very good for treating chronic pain, muscle spasms, anxiety, nausea, can stimulate appetite, and it definitely helps folks with insomnia. That's just some of the ones on the list. Cannabis indica would also be the good ticket for someone with PTSD. Cannabis sativa, a lot different. The plants are a lot taller, the leaves are long and skinny. It originated near the equator. And cannabis sativa, when you medicate with it, will actually give you energy, believe it or not. I think there's a rumor out there that, you know, cannabis always makes people tired. Not if you have a pure sativa type strain. Won't cause any tiredness at all, actually. And can boost creativity, gives you what's called a cerebral high, so you kind of feel it in your head a little bit more. Artists love to use it and, you know, feel inspired when they do because of the effect on the head. But on the medical side, it's very good for treating Alzheimer's. It's good for treating people that have other mental health disorders, depression, anxiety, ADHD. You know, cannabis sativa is also going to be good for folks who need to medicate all throughout the day, but during the day they can't afford to be tired. Let's say it's a mom who's, you know, a housewife and working with her kids all day, what have you, and, you know, maybe she had a back injury or there's something else going on with her. She can't be tired all day and still needs to medicate. Cannabis sativa would be a good option for her. The CBD-rich strains are becoming really popular because, yes, with all the benefit we've seen with epilepsy, but very specifically with CBD, it's not a psychoactive cannabinoid. It won't get you high. So you can get the benefits that folks have been getting for centuries, really, and these plants were actually bred out because they weren't getting people high. So there's not a lot of them and they're not very popular. But what we're finding is for elderly patients or for children, that's a great option. Or just for someone who doesn't want to get high.